Amelia and Ethan had been together for 5 years. From the outside, their relationship appeared perfect, full of love, laughter, and comfort. Yet, there was a restless feeling within Amelia, an unshakable curiosity that lingered at the back of her mind. She desired more, not because she was dissatisfied, but because she felt somewhat constrained by the routine they had settled into. One quiet evening, in a quaint restaurant on the edge of town, Amelia asked a question that would change everything. "Ethan, what if we tried an open relationship?" she asked, her voice tinged with a mixture of tension and hope. Ethan looked at her, trying to gauge whether it was a joke or something more serious. But from the look in Amelia's eyes, he could tell that this was no passing fancy. Ethan paused, digesting her words. He knew their bond was strong, but the idea of an open relationship felt foreign to him. There was nothing wrong with their relationship, but as Amelia spoke, a seed of doubt began to grow in his mind. "Are you sure?" Ethan asked, his voice faltering slightly. This could change everything. Amelia offered a small, reassuring smile, trying to convince him. "I just want more freedom. It's not that I don't love you, it's about opening the door to new experiences." With a hesitant but curious nod, Ethan agreed to give it a try. They established rules, set boundaries, and told themselves they would communicate openly. Little did they know, they were about to become ensnared in a dilemma that would test everything they had built. In the beginning, the open relationship felt liberating. Amelia went out with friends, met new people, and explored connections without the usual constraints. Ethan, too, embraced the freedom, enjoying his independence while still feeling close to Amelia. They shared stories of their encounters, maintaining an open line of communication, but the bond between them remained intact. But over time, something shifted within Amelia. It wasn't just about meeting new people anymore, it was something deeper, something she hadn't anticipated. One evening, in a cozy cafe, Amelia met Lucas. He was an intriguing stranger, sitting alone at a table in the corner. They struck up a conversation, and before long, the words began to flow effortlessly between them. Lucas, a freelance photographer from England, spoke passionately about his travels and creative adventures. Amelia felt a magnetic pull, a connection she hadn't felt in a long time. They parted ways that night, exchanging numbers, both unaware that this encounter would soon unravel the fabric of Amelia's life. As she walked home, she felt torn. She had shared so many wonderful moments with Ethan, but something about Lucas stirred something inside her. The connection was undeniable. With each meeting, Amelia's feelings for Lucas deepened. They shared more than just casual conversation, they bonded over their shared interests in art, literature, and the world around them. Lucas was charismatic, intelligent, and incredibly engaging. Amelia couldn't help but be drawn to him. As their time together grew, so did her feelings, and that spark between them became undeniable. Meanwhile, Ethan began to notice a change. Amelia was distant, more preoccupied with messages and calls from people he didn't know. At first, he brushed it off, telling himself she was just busy with work or new friends. But soon it became clear, there was more to it than that. Something had shifted, and he was left to wonder what was happening between them. One evening, Amelia sat in front of her phone, reading a message from Lucas. Her heart raced as she realized how deeply she had become involved. She couldn't deny it any longer, she was falling for him. And with that realization came a wave of guilt, as her connection with Lucas intensified. Every time she saw him, her feelings grew stronger, and it became harder to ignore the growing distance between her and Ethan. That night, Amelia knew she had to come clean. Ethan had noticed the change, and it was only a matter of time before he confronted her. She had to be honest with him, even if it meant breaking his heart. "Ethan," she said, her voice trembling slightly, "I've been seeing someone else. I think I'm falling for him. The words came out slowly, but they hit Ethan like a freight train. His heart sank as he processed what she had just said. For a long moment, Ethan was silent. His face was a mix of shock and confusion. How could this be happening? How had they gone from being so close to this moment of betrayal? Ethan was stunned, unable to respond immediately. His mind raced as he tried to make sense of everything. What went wrong? What had led them to this point? They had talked about an open relationship, but now that it had crossed into something deeper, something more intimate, it felt like a betrayal. So this is about him? Ethan asked, his voice barely above a whisper, his pain evident in every word. Amelia could only nod, her heart breaking as she saw the hurt in his eyes. I never meant for this to happen, Ethan. I didn't expect to feel this way, but I can't ignore it. I'm sorry, Amelia said, her voice cracking with regret. But the damage had already been done, and no apology could undo the pain. Ethan stood up slowly, his body tense, his eyes never leaving Amelia's. He felt like everything he had known was slipping away. He had been willing to try something new, but now, it seemed like he had lost her to someone else. Every time Amelia met Lucas, her sense of connection deepened. They spent time together, not just talking about life, but sharing personal experiences she had never shared with Ethan. Lucas was a man full of charm, speaking with great passion about the world he explored through his camera and sharp eyes. Amelia felt alive again, as if a part of her that had been locked away was now open. Yet, behind the happiness she felt, Amelia also felt trapped. Each time she met with Lucas, the divide between her and Ethan grew. Amelia didn't know how to distinguish between love and freedom anymore. When she was with Lucas, she felt free and unburdened, but when she was with Ethan, it felt as though she was bound by the beautiful memories of their past. There was a confusion in her that had begun to surface. Was this really what she wanted? Was this freedom bringing her true happiness, or was it merely an escape? One evening, as they sat in a small cafe, Lucas said, I feel like we have a connection that goes beyond coincidence. Amelia looked at him, a small smile forming on her face. There was something in Lucas's words that made her feel more alive, more appreciated, something she hadn't felt with Ethan in a long time. But deep down, she knew she was facing something bigger, an even harder decision than simply choosing between two men. That night, after meeting Lucas, Amelia felt more restless than usual. In her quiet living room, she sat in contemplation, with photos of her time with Ethan and Lucas scattered across the table. The memories of her past with Ethan crept up, as if she couldn't shake the shadow of it. On one hand, there was the love they had built over the years, but on the other, there was the passion and freedom that came with Lucas, which made her feel alive again. Amelia took a deep breath and stared out the window. Was freedom truly the answer to happiness? She began to doubt her own choices. Every time she was with Lucas, she felt more connected to herself, more liberated from the chains of her past. But every time she thought of Ethan, her heart ached. She knew that as time passed, she would have to make a choice. The freedom she sought may not bring her the happiness she imagined. Instead, it brought a greater confusion, loving two people in different ways. Is this what I really want? Amelia murmured to herself as she looked at their photo together. She knew that there was no easy answer, and the emotions she was feeling now were more complicated than she had ever anticipated. Meanwhile, Ethan had taken a different approach to deal with the aftermath of their broken relationship. He had spent weeks feeling lost and devastated, but one sunny morning, he made the decision to change his life. There was no longer any reason to stay buried in sadness, and he knew that he needed to step out of the shadow of their relationship. Ethan started a new routine, practicing yoga, meditation, and journaling, things he had never considered before but that now brought him a sense of peace. Every morning, he would write in his journal, reflecting on his emotions, on what had happened, and on the future ahead. He also began reconnecting with old friends he had lost touch with. His life, which had once felt so full of Amelia, now felt lighter. He planned a solo trip out of town, something he had always wanted to do but had put off for the sake of their relationship. Day by day, Ethan felt calmer. Through meditation and reflection, he found happiness within himself, not in the relationship that had ended, but in the peace of mind he was finally able to find. While he still loved Amelia, he understood that true happiness started with loving himself first. One evening, Ethan stood outside their house, watching the sunset slowly fade behind the horizon. The cool breeze from the sea brushed against his face, offering a sense of peace he had long been without. He knew that this was the moment. After months of struggling to accept the reality, Ethan finally felt strong enough to say goodbye to the past. He understood that their relationship was over, and while he would always cherish the memories with Amelia, he couldn't continue to live in its shadow. "Goodbye, Amelia," he whispered softly, his words almost like a prayer. Though there was deep pain, he felt a newfound peace. Ethan knew that his life would not stop here. This was not the end, but rather a new beginning. He lifted his face, feeling the fresh sea breeze, and decided to move forward with his life. He was ready to move on, without regrets, only with hope that the journey ahead would bring him even greater happiness than he had ever imagined. On the other hand, Amelia felt as though the world was spinning faster than she could keep up with. She knew that the freedom she had longed for wasn't bringing her the happiness she sought. Lucas, who had once brought so much excitement into her life, now felt more like a shadow. Every time they met, something was missing. She felt lonely, despite having someone by her side. She realized that what she had been seeking was not found outside of herself, but within herself. One night, after an encounter with Lucas that felt empty, Amelia sat in a cafe, reflecting. Everything she had wanted, freedom, passion, and adventure, didn't provide the answers to her confusion. She knew she had to take a big step to forgive herself and let go of everything that had happened. So many things she had hoped for from this open relationship had turned out to be more complicated than she had ever imagined. After hours of contemplation, Amelia made the decision to seek out Ethan. She didn't know if there was still room for them, but she knew that she needed to talk to him. However, when she arrived at the place they once frequented, all she found was emptiness. Ethan wasn't there. Only memories remained. Without words, Amelia realized that she had to walk alone. With a heavy heart, she left the place. The decision she had made, the mistakes she had made, everything was part of the life journey she had to face. Though filled with regret, she knew that life had to move forward. Only time would tell how she could forgive herself and begin to rebuild a new life.